March 15th, 44 BC. The Ides of March. A man enters the Theatre of Pompey in Rome, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to believe, that the walls around him conceal death. Within moments, dozens of Roman senators will rise from their seats, blades hidden beneath their togas. And in the chaos that follows, the most powerful man in the known world will fall, not by the hands of his enemies abroad, but by the very men he once called allies, even friends. This is not just the story of an assassination. This is the betrayal that changed the fate of Rome forever. But why did they do it? Was Julius Caesar truly a tyrant who threatened the Republic, or a visionary whose death doomed Rome to civil war? Stay with me, because the answer lies buried in blood, ambition, and betrayal. Julius Caesar. His name still echoes across centuries as both legend and warning. He was a general without equal, a politician of unmatched charisma, and a reformer who dared to reshape the Republic itself. By the year 44 BC, he had achieved the unthinkable. He crossed the Rubicon, defeated Pompey, and crushed resistance across the Mediterranean. He emerged as Rome's absolute ruler, a man hailed as Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. For his supporters, Caesar was the savior of Rome, the man who ended years of civil war and promised stability. For his enemies, he was something far darker. To them, Caesar was no longer the defender of the Republic, but the destroyer of it. Let's rewind. Rome before Caesar was in turmoil. Decades of corruption, class conflict, and endless wars had hollowed out the Republic. The Senate was divided, the people restless. Caesar rose through the ranks with cunning and brilliance. His campaigns in Gaul made him rich and beloved by his soldiers. His daring crossing of the Rubicon in 49 BC ignited civil war. Against Pompey, once his ally in the First Triumvirate, Caesar's forces prevailed. Pompey fled to Egypt, and there he met his end. Caesar returned to Rome not just as a victor, but as Rome's undisputed master. He pardoned enemies, passed reforms, and poured wealth into public works. But power was slipping further and further from the Senate into Caesar's hands. Power. It is both intoxicating and dangerous. The Senate granted Caesar honors that were once unthinkable. His statue stood among the gods. He was given the title Dictator for Life. He wore purple and gold, the colors of kings. And Rome hated kings. The Republic's founding myth was the expulsion of a king. To the conspirators, Caesar was no longer a man, but a monarch in waiting. Among them were some of Rome's most powerful senators, Cassius, Cimber, Casca, and shockingly, Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus was not just another senator. He was a man Caesar trusted deeply, perhaps even like a son. But to Brutus, torn between loyalty to Caesar and loyalty to the Republic, the choice became a dagger's edge. As the Ides of March approached, Rome seemed haunted by omens. Ancient writers tell us of strange signs: horses refusing to eat, birds falling dead from the sky, even Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, waking in terror from a dream of his statue bleeding. On the morning of March 15th, Caesar hesitated. Calpurnia begged him to stay home, to listen to the warnings. And he almost did. Almost. But then came Decimus Brutus, another trusted ally, and secretly a conspirator. Decimus convinced Caesar to ignore the fears, saying the Senate waited for him, saying the people might think him weak. And so, Caesar rose from his home and stepped into destiny. Picture it. The Theatre of Pompey, grand and crowded with Rome's senators. The irony is sharp. Caesar enters a building named after Pompey, his once great rival, now long dead. The conspirators wait, like shadows. As Caesar takes his seat, they surround him under the pretense of presenting petitions. Tullius Cimber approaches, pleading for the return of his brother from exile. Caesar refuses. Cimber grabs his toga, pulling it down from his shoulders. That was the signal. Casca strikes first, slashing at Caesar's neck. Chaos erupts, blades flash. Caesar struggles, cries out in disbelief, and then he sees Brutus. His Brutus. And in that moment, words are spoken, or perhaps imagined, that will echo forever. Et tu, Brute. And with that, resistance fades. Caesar pulls his toga over his head, and he falls. 23 stab wounds. The mighty dictator lies dead at the feet of men he once trusted. The Senate chamber was drenched in blood, but outside, the people of Rome waited. The conspirators expected cheers, a triumphant return of the Republic. They were wrong. Instead of glory, they found horror. Caesar was beloved by the people. Soldiers, veterans, citizens, Rome mourned. Antony, Caesar's loyal friend and ally, seized the moment. At Caesar's funeral, Antony's speech turned grief into rage. Holding up Caesar's torn and bloodied toga, he revealed the stab wounds, naming the conspirators one by one. The people erupted. Riots spread through the city. Houses of the assassins were burned. And Rome descended into chaos once more. The conspirators claimed they struck down a tyrant to save the Republic, but in killing Caesar, they unleashed something far worse: civil war. Antony joined forces with Octavian, Caesar's heir, and Lepidus, forming the Second Triumvirate. Together they hunted the assassins, defeating Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi. Brutus, seeing all lost, took his own life. His final words were said to be filled with honor, but history would remember him as the betrayer of Caesar. In the years that followed, Octavian would rise as Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The Republic did not survive Caesar's death. Instead, his assassination paved the road to empire. So, was Julius Caesar's death a noble defense of freedom, or the greatest political mistake in Roman history? The men who plunged their daggers into Caesar believed they were saving Rome, but their act shattered the Republic beyond repair. In truth, the Ides of March was not just the death of a man, it was the death of an idea.
And that is why, more than 2,000 years later, we still remember the Ides of March as a warning of ambition, of betrayal, and of how quickly power can slip from one man's hands into another's. If you found this story gripping, there's so much more hidden within the shadows of history. Don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of History for more tales of betrayal, power, and the mysteries of the past. And before you go, check out this video right here on your screen. The truth about Viking helmets, the myth of horns. Trust me, what you think you know might just be wrong.